So with only a few more weeks until the new season gets back underway, that can only mean one thing: fantasy football is almost back. Let's jump into it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. I really enjoyed doing this last season and we're going to be doing the same again. Now we've still got a fair amount of time before the season kicks off, so this is going to be just my sort of initial draft that I'm building for my championship fantasy football team this season. I'm going to do another one that's more updated right about when the season's going to start, I think, but I thought it would be good to get sort of an initial draft in there of the players who I think are going to be quite strong going into next season. We are once again going to be running the Ben HD League as well, so make sure to get involved with that. The website's called Gaffer. We did this last year. It was a load of fun. I'll leave a link in the description down below to the website and the league code that you're going to need to sign up. We're also going to be running a league on Patreon as well. Obviously there'll be less people in that one, so it'll be a little bit more sort of competitive in there, and we're also going to be giving away a bit of a cash prize for that Patreon winner in the end. So all you need to do to enter that league is sign up to the Patreon to the lowest tier. That's $2 a month. You'll get the code for that and you'll then be in there for the season. But without any further ado, guys, let's go in and build my team. So as always, we're coming into this one with a budget of 100 million to spend. You then need to build your team, build up your reserves as well, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun this year because we do have some pretty big hitters to go ahead and choose between. So we'll start out at the back and then sort of work our way forwards. Straight away, the goalkeepers that I'm drawn to, I mean, Sam Johnson would be fantastic, but I've got a bit of a feeling that he's probably going to be one of the West Brom players who is going to be out the door. Bartosz Bilkowski interests me straight away. Millwall at the back last season were very strong. They keep a lot of clean sheets. They've already improved on their defence as well, bringing in Daniel Ballard on loan for the season from Arsenal. So Bilkowski right away is jumping out at me. But before we actually get into building my team, something that is always worth bearing in mind is the fixtures that teams have got at the start of the season. So as you can see on screen here, these are the opening 10 fixtures for every championship side. What you generally want to see is a team having a lot of green fixtures. The sort of greener they are, the easier the fixture list is, and the redder they are, the harder it's looking. So if we're looking at general teams who have got a pretty easy or relatively decent start to the season, QPR have got some decent opening matches. My side, Preston, have got a fairly decent start. Certainly the first sort of like 4 games look quite manageable for North End. Fulham, I think, have a very nice run in at the start of the season. Actually, they don't play any of the teams in red until game week 10. So some Fulham players I think we're definitely going to have to target for the start of the season. Cardiff as well, they've got a relatively decent start here by the looks of things. So okay, we'll keep that in mind definitely. How's Millwall start to the season looking? So Millwall do have a fair few tough fixtures sprinkled in there, but definitely the opportunities to be picking up some clean sheets. Okay, so with all that information in mind, I'm sort of tempted now to go for Rodak maybe in net. I thought he was absolutely brilliant last time Fulham were in the Championship. He's got a bit of a point to prove now, you know, with Areola no longer being there. Then for my backup goalkeeper, I mean, I do kind of want to go with one of the cheaper options. I'll throw Chris Maxwell in there for the time being. Why not? He kept a fair few clean sheets for Blackpool last season. They do have a pretty tough start to the season though, which could mean that he'll be making a lot of saves and maybe picking up some bonus points and things like that. But for the time being, I think that Rodak is going to be my #1 goalkeeper. Next up, let's move into the defence. Now, last time round, Robertson, Bidwell were absolute fantasy football royalty. What you genuinely want to see is you want to get sort of people who are going to be playing as wing backs, getting loads of goal contributions and also picking up those clean sheets. I do kind of want a Swansea defender in there. Under Steve Cooper, you know they're going to be quite, you know, stingy at the back and things like that. And with someone like Roberts especially, getting up and down a lot, I'm very tempted to put him into the team as well. He is a premium defender though, you know, he's the most expensive defender on the game, coming in at 7.5 million. Another player who I'm drawn to, Semi Ajayi, real goal threat from set pieces. West Brom, you'd also anticipate to be one of the stronger teams at the back, being one of those relegated clubs. So Ajayi, I want to throw in there for the time being, but I mean, we're already going pretty expensive here on our defenders. Sheffield United, I'm tempted by some of their defenders as well, but we'll leave the defence for now because we've got 2 sort of premium defenders in there, a good goalkeeper as well. Let's move on to the midfield and forwards because this is where I think we're going to be spending the majority of our budget, and then we'll sort of move backwards after that, back into the defence. I mean, the first two people that spring out instantly are Pereira and Danjuma. Whether they will still be playing in the Championship at the start of the season remains to be seen. They're both getting pretty heavy links away from their clubs at the moment. But to be honest, you know, I remember doing this video this time last year and we were all saying exactly the same about Emi Buendia. He ended up staying, he ended up ripping it up in the Championship. If they both stay, then I think at least one of those two is an absolute necessity going into next season. I'll throw Pereira in there for the time being, although I'd be amazed if he was to stay. If he does, you sort of need him in your team because he's just that good, isn't he? In terms of some other high-end options, Diangana would be a very nice one, especially if you were to sort of exclude Pereira from this team, you know, with it still being up in the air at the moment with his future and stuff like that. Diangana and Callum Robinson, I think, would both be excellent options. Robinson as well also has the potential to be playing up front for West Brom come the start of the season. He played that role quite a bit for them, and he does score goals in the Championship. You know, he's pretty much guaranteed goals at this level. If we then go ahead and look at some of the other midfielders, Nick Powell interests me. He was really towards the end of the season the only goal threat that Stoke sort of had in their side and things like that. He, I anticipate, will be pretty strong once again. For the time being, I'm going to put Nick Powell into the team. What other midfielders are standing out at me? Billing, very strong towards the end of the season for Bournemouth, especially when he was playing in that number 10 position. I wouldn't mind getting some QPR players on board, to be honest with you, with how well they finished last season. Someone like a Chair and the amount of chances that he will genuinely create for those sort of strikers he's got ahead of him. Tempted to throw Chair in there for the time being as well. Pearson, going to avoid, centre defensive midfielder, probably won't get all too many goal involvements and things like that. John Swift would be an interesting one, although I'm not totally sure what his fitness is looking like at the moment and whether he will be ready to go at the start of the season. But with Elise departing, Swift I think would be a pretty decent option if he is fit come the start of the season. Malik Wilkes I like quite a lot as well, to be honest with you. He's just had an excellent season with Hull and probably will be one of their biggest goal threats going forward. We'll throw him in there for the time being. Tom Lawrence, I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this. He's just been named as the new Derby captain, which caught me by surprise a little bit. Not sure I'll be going in for any Derby players just yet, with them looking a little bit unsettled and things like that. But after that, we get round to a few of the cheaper options in here, to be honest with you, that we're getting down towards the 5s, the 6 millions and the 5 millions. For a cheaper option, someone like a Callum O'Hare at Coventry isn't looking all too bad at the price of 5 million. I think he got about 8 assists last season, few goals on top of that as well. And with Coventry investing into their forward, you know, Wycorn's come in, they're looking probably to score more goals going into next season. Someone like an O'Hare may not be the worst purchase in the world, so that's what we're sort of looking like at the moment. But I mean, I'm definitely going to make changes to this. This is literally just the first draft that I'm doing. I've not really looked into the players all too much and stuff like that. But next up, let's go for the big hitters. Let's go for the strikers. Now this is where a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money, can be spent. Someone like a Mitrovic is interesting. Once again, we're not sure on his future at the moment. He got sort of cast aside last season by Scott Parker, but now with Parker no longer being there, is Mitrovic going to come back into the frame? Because if he is, there's no doubts that he's in my team. Like, I'm sacrificing anyone to get Mitrovic in there. He is like guaranteed to score you like 20 goals over a full season. So yeah, we'll wait and see what the future holds for Mitrovic, but at the moment I want him in my team. Other players who I'm fancying to have good seasons next time round, Ryan Brewster I've spoken quite highly about for quite some time now. For 8.5 million, I'm fancying him to be strong next season. I really want him to put him in there. Brereton I think could be decent, but at 8 million seems like a little bit of a gamble. Campbell, depending on his fitness, would be very good for 8 million as well. And in terms of like the other like big hitters, Solanke at 11 million seems a little bit pricey. I know he did score a fair few goals last season, but with Danjuma potentially not being there, we'll wait and see. Armstrong, I'm probably anticipating to leave. Kiefer Moore I'd quite like in my team actually. Cardiff, as we looked at their fixtures before, had a relatively decent start to this season, so I am tempted to throw him in there for the time being, but that only leaves us with 10.5 million left to spend with 3 defenders still to go, so I'm going to have to cut down on this team somewhere. I'm going to take Mitrovic out of the team for now because we're not sure on his future and whether or not he actually will be at Fulham come the start of the season. Like I said, this is just the first draft here, but you know, we're going to make changes as things go along. Let's look for a bit more of a bargain option then as one of the strikers, shall we? Do you know what? Someone like a Clark Harris for only 6 million. I know that he has to make that step up from League One to the Championship, but with the way that Peterborough play football, they're going to be creating chances next season. So I'm tempted to have a bit of a gamble on Clark Harris for the time being. Obviously that does save us quite a bit of our budget as well, and it leaves us a little bit more wiggle room with those last 3 defenders that we need to now bring in. In terms of those defenders, if I wanted another premium one in there, Joe Bryan interests me a lot. It's looking more than likely that Robinson will probably be leaving in this transfer window, which would pretty much make Joe Bryan nailed on in that Fulham side. And as an attacking fullback in the Championship, Bryan's like probably one of the best we've seen over recent years, to be honest with you, but it doesn't leave us much else to spend on the defence, does it? QPR have some decent options at the back here, and with their start to the season looking relatively decent, there could be some potential in there for some QPR defenders to pick up clean sheets. Now, I'm not sure if Sam McCallum's going to be nailed on in terms of a starter. I know that he's got a little bit of competition in that area, but if QPR are going to be going with the back 5, McCallum may get some chances to push on and things like that. So I could throw him in there, could go Joy the Device instead of him. But for 4.5 million, he doesn't seem all too bad. And then that leaves us with another 5 million to play around with for another position. Do you know what? I'm tempted to throw Ola Sunday into the equation as well. Preston have got a relatively decent start to the season. It's looking like we're probably going to be going with the back 5, so Ola Sunday is going to have those opportunities to really bomb on as a right wing back. And it does leave us with another 0.5 million to spend on this team somewhere, should we wish. I think for the time being, I'm going to get rid of McCallum and I'm going to throw in Rob Dickey, just because I know that he's going to be a nailed-on starter for QPR, and obviously he can pop up with a goal when he wants to and things like that. But that, I think, right there is going to be my first draft of fantasy football for this upcoming season. Like I said, this was just completely off the cuff, and by the time the first game week rolls around, I'm going to make plenty of changes to this team, and I will have an updated video coming out as we get closer towards the season. But as a first draft, you know, after first looking at that, I think that team's looking pretty strong myself. Let me know down below players from your club who you think are going to be absolutely massive and a must-have in fantasy football. Who are they? Let me know about them down below. If you'd like to see more content surrounding fantasy football coming out over these next few weeks, make sure to smash a like on today's video. Make sure to go ahead and sign up for the league. The league code is in the description down below. But apart from that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.